So, I never thought I'd be the type to get petty revenge on family, but here we are. Strap in, because this is a wild one. A few months ago, my golden child of a younger brother, let's call him Jake, came to me with a sob story. He was struggling financially, needed help paying rent, utilities, blah blah blah. He promised he'd pay me back as soon as possible, once he got back on his feet. Now, I've helped him before, and let's just say, his track record for repaying debts is trash. But, since I stupidly believed in family loyalty, I agreed that I loaned him $5,000. Not pocket change. I even cut into my emergency fund to help him out, thinking I was keeping him off the streets. Then came family dinner. We're all sitting there, having a normal night, when my dad casually asks Jake how his new car is treating him. "Excuse me?" I stare at Jake. "What car?" Jake smirks and shrugs. "Oh yeah, I got a new ride. 2023 model, fully loaded." He says it like it's nothing. I'm still trying to process this when my mom, completely oblivious to the tension, gushes about how Jake deserves something nice for himself after everything he's been through. At this point, my jaw is on the floor. "Wait, you bought a new car?" I say, my voice probably a little louder than I intended. Jake just shrugs again. "Yeah man, found a good deal. Payments aren't too bad. Needed an upgrade." I blink. "With what money, Jake?" He has the audacity to smirk at me and say, "Well, technically, I used the money you lent me. But don't worry, I'll pay you back eventually." I think my brain short-circuited. "You spent my loan on a new car." The table goes silent. My parents look uncomfortable. My mom gives me this "don't start drama" look. My dad sighs like I'm the one being difficult. Then my mom, bless her tone-deaf soul, actually says, "Honey, you shouldn't have given him money if you weren't okay with how he spent it." What the absolute hell did I look at Jake, who was just sitting there, looking so damn smug, eating his food like this is all hilarious. I can feel the rage bubbling up. Then Jake, probably feeling invincible at this point, laughs and says, "I mean, come on, you've got a stable job. $5,000 isn't a big deal to you." Yo. Oh, okay. Now it's Ward. I don't say another word for the rest of dinner. But in my head, I'm already planning my revenge. See, Jake might be an entitled little brat, but he's also stupid. He bought the car on a loan. A loan that he hasn't even made the first payment on yet. And, as it turns out, I have a way to make sure he regrets every smug little word that came out of his mouth. After that family dinner, I went home absolutely fuming. I felt like an idiot for trusting Jake, and I felt even worse knowing my parents were just letting him get away with it. But instead of blowing up, I decided to be patient. I wasn't just going to yell at him. I was going to make him regret every smug little word that came out of his mouth. First, I needed to figure out how he even got the car. Jake was terrible with money. He was always late on rent, dodging payments, borrowing from anyone who would lend to him. There was no way he had magically saved up enough to buy a brand new car. So I started digging. I knew he had taken out a loan. There was no way a dealership would let him drive off the lot otherwise. But Jake's credit was awful. So how did he get approved? Then it hit me. Jake wasn't smart enough to figure out complicated financial workarounds, which meant he had to have a co-signer. And there was really only one person dumb enough to do that for him. Our dad. Now, my dad has always had a soft spot for Jake. I could work my ass off, be responsible, save my money, and it wouldn't matter. Jake could mess up over and over again, and my parents would still bail him out. It wasn't even surprising anymore. But what was surprising was how careless Dad had been. Because by co-signing that loan, he wasn't just vouching for Jake. He was on the hook for it. If Jake missed even one payment, the bank would come after Dad next. And that's when I knew exactly how I was going to get my money back. I waited 2 weeks. I didn't mention the loan. I didn't mention the car. I didn't even bring up money at all. I wanted Jake to feel safe, to think I had just given up and moved on. And then, just as he was getting comfortable, I started making my moves. First, I made a call to the bank. I wasn't stupid enough to do anything illegal, but I did ask some very pointed questions about what happens when a co-signer realizes they've made a mistake. I might have accidentally let it slip that Jake had a history of financial irresponsibility, and I might have mentioned that he had a tendency to blow through large amounts of cash. Banks don't like hearing things like that. I could practically hear the concern in the loan officer's voice. They told me they'd be reviewing his account. Then, I decided to take things a step further. Jake wasn't exactly careful with his personal information. He had a bad habit of using the same passwords for everything, and let's just say I knew a lot more about his accounts than he probably realized. I didn't steal anything. I wasn't that reckless, but I did make a few adjustments. His car insurance? Yeah, I might have updated a few details, just enough to raise his monthly premium significantly. Nothing too crazy, just enough to hurt. But the best part? That came when I had a little conversation with Dad. I didn't come at him aggressively. I didn't yell or accuse him of anything. I just sat him down and calmly explained that if Jake missed even a single payment, the bank wasn't going to chase Jake for the money. They were going to come after him. Dad went pale. I could see the wheels turning in his head. For the first time, I think he really understood what a mistake he had made. And that's when things started to fall apart. A week later, I got a very angry phone call from Jake. Apparently, the bank had reached out to him about changes to his loan status, and he was furious. He was yelling about how I had ruined his life, how I was meddling in things that weren't my business. He kept screaming about how his insurance had shot up, how he was getting calls about potential loan adjustments. And then, in the middle of his rant, he slipped up. "You had no right to mess with my loan," he shouted. "I was going to make the payments. I just needed more time before the first one was due." I froze. Jake hadn't even made his first payment yet. And if that was the case, then the bank was already seeing him as a risk. And that's when I realized I didn't need to take his car. The bank was about to do it for me. I could barely hold back a grin. Jake had no idea just how deep he was in. If the bank was already breathing down his neck before his first payment was even due, then things were about to get very interesting. But I didn't let him know that. Instead, I played dumb. "Wait, you haven't paid anything yet?" I asked, my voice all fake concern. "That's weird, because usually when you get a car loan, they expect you to, start paying for it." Jake stammered, backpedaling. "I was going to. I am. Things got complicated. I had to take care of other stuff first." Yes. Other stuff? Translation. He had probably blown through the rest of my loan money on absolute nonsense and was now realizing that responsibility wasn't optional. But here's the thing about banks. They don't care about excuses. They don't care if you're gonna pay. They care about results. And right now, Jake had none. And neither did Dad. Because not even an hour later, I got another phone call. This time, from my father. "What the hell did you do?" His voice was tight, furious. "The bank just called me. They're saying there's a problem with Jake's loan. They're asking if I want to." He cut himself off, like he couldn't even bring himself to say it. I leaned back in my chair, feigning ignorance. "A problem? Huh. That's weird." Dad wasn't in the mood for games. "Don't. I know you had something to do with this. You've been holding a grudge ever since that stupid dinner." "Oh, so now I was holding a grudge?" I let out a slow breath, keeping my voice calm. "I don't know what you're talking about. I just think it's interesting that you'd co-sign a loan for someone with Jake's track record. Really makes you liable for his mistakes, doesn't it?" Silence, then, the sound of Dad inhaling sharply through his nose. "Fix it." I let out a short laugh. "Fix it? Me? Dad, I'm not the one who got into a financial mess. You are." "That's not how this works," he snapped. "You don't screw over your family." I felt my stomach twist, not with guilt, but with pure rage. Because wasn't that rich? I didn't screw over my family? Me? The one who had been lied to, used, and tossed aside the second it was convenient. I clenched my jaw, my patience razor thin. "No, Dad. Jake screwed over his family. He screwed over me. I was trying to help, and he threw it back in my face. You want someone to be mad at? Look at him." Dad started to argue, but I didn't have the energy for it. I ended the call. And that's when the real fallout began. 3 days later, Jake called me again. This time, his voice was different. He wasn't just mad. He was desperate. "The bank, they're saying they might take the car," he stammered. They're telling me I need to make an immediate payment or." I could hear it in his voice. "Panic." I smiled. It made me want to laugh, but I didn't. I just let the silence drag on for a moment, enjoying the fact that he was finally facing the consequences of his actions. You should have thought about this before you bought a car you couldn't afford, I said, my voice cool and calm. Before you took money from me that you never planned on paying back. Jake's breath hitched. Look, I didn't mean for it to go this far. I was planning to pay you back, okay? Just help me out, please. I'll pay you back as soon as I can. I swear. I could hear the desperation building, but it didn't faze me. I was past the point of feeling sorry for him. He wasn't getting any sympathy from me this time. You're begging me now, but where was this when you were spending my money on a car you can't afford? Where was this when I was asking for the money you promised me? He was silent for a second, then muttered, I made a mistake. I know I messed up, but I just need more time. Please. I leaned back in my chair, smirking to myself. More time, huh? Funny how that works. You keep promising more time, but it's my money that's been sitting in your pocket while you keep not paying me back. The bank doesn't care about your more time, Jake. They care about getting their money. And right now, that car is their payment. Jake started to get more frantic, his voice rising. No, no, no. They can't take it. I need that car. It's the only way I can get to work. It's the only thing I've got left. I can't lose it. I could hear the panic in his voice, the desperation, the fear. It was almost delicious. Oh, I get it now, I said, playing the part of the understanding sibling. You don't want the car to go. You need it. But you're not thinking about the fact that you never bothered to think things through. You never cared about how this would affect anyone else. You've just been using people, and now it's catching up to you. And guess who's left holding the bag? He was stammering now, barely able to form coherent words. I'm not using you. I swear. I need help, please. Please just help me. I'll fix it. I'll do anything. Just don't let them take it. I paused. For a moment, I almost felt bad for him. Almost. But then I thought about how I'd been the one to help him. How I'd given him money that he had no intention of paying back. How he'd been so quick to take, but never so much as offered to pay me back. My jaw clenched, and my grip on the phone tightened. Jake, I said slowly, letting the words hang in the air. I think it's a little too late for that. You had your chance. But now, you're going to have to face the consequences. He didn't say anything, but I could hear him breathing hard, his mind racing to find some way out of this. You know what? I continued, my voice lowering, as if I were sharing a secret. I think it's better if I handle this for you. I'll make sure that car gets taken. That way, you won't have to worry about paying for something you can't afford. And trust me, the bank? They won't care about your excuses. They'll take it the second you slip up. He was silent for a long time. Then, in a broken whisper, he said, You wouldn't do that to me. But I could hear the doubt in his voice. And that's when I knew I had him. Jake's voice was almost a whisper now, but the desperation was clear. Please don't do this. Please, I can't lose the car. I swear I'll pay you back. I will. Just don't let them take it. I leaned forward, my finger tapping lightly against the phone, the tension in the air almost suffocating. I had all the control now, and honestly, it felt kind of good to see him squirm. Jake, you're not hearing me. I gave you plenty of chances. You were too busy buying a car you couldn't afford while I was asking for a little bit of responsibility. I warned you, and now you're asking me to bail you out? Again? It's not going to happen. I paused, letting the weight of my words sink in, hearing him struggle to find an answer. He was quiet, but I could feel him trying to think of something, anything to get me to relent. I wasn't sure what he expected. Maybe he thought I would be the same person who forgave him every other time. Maybe he thought this time would be different. But it wasn't. You've already messed up, I said, my tone cold, methodical. And the bank? They won't care about your sob story. They'll take the car, and there's nothing you or I can do to stop it now. It's already in motion. There was a long, drawn-out silence on the other end of the line. I could hear him breathing, shallow, uneven. It was a sound I never thought I'd enjoy hearing, but now, it felt like sweet victory. He had no more moves to play. He had backed himself into a corner with no way out. I'll make a payment today, Jake said finally, but his words were shaky. Just give me a chance to get the money together. I can do it. I almost laughed. Jake, you've been saying that for weeks. For months. And now you expect me to believe you'll have it today? No, it's too late for that. You had your shot. I could hear the panic begin to rise again in his voice. Please, please, I'm begging you. I can't lose this car. I need it to get to work, to get my life together. Don't make them take it. I'll do anything, please. At that moment, I realized how far he was willing to go. The guy who once casually borrowed my money and ignored his debt now was completely at my mercy. It was the ultimate power play, and the best part was, he knew it. But I wasn't done yet. No, I said, my voice sharp. You know what? I think I'll handle this. I'll make sure everything goes according to plan. Wait, what do you mean by that? Jake's voice was frantic now. You can't just leave me like this. Oh, I can, I replied, a dark grin spreading across my face. And I will. I hung up without saying another word. The next morning, I got a text from Dad. It was short but direct. Jake said you've been messing with his loan. What did you do? I smirked at the message but didn't reply immediately. I was already setting things in motion. There was a plan in place now, one that would make sure Jake would never pull something like this again. And this time, I wasn't going to stop until I saw it through. The way I saw it, this wasn't just about the money anymore. It was about teaching him a lesson he wouldn't forget. I didn't care if I had to make a few uncomfortable moves to do it. I was done being the one who bailed him out, and I wasn't about to let him get away with it again. I didn't respond to Dad's text. Instead, I sat there for a moment, watching the notifications on my phone buzz, each one more urgent than the last. Jake had clearly gone into full panic mode, calling me multiple times, sending texts begging for help. The truth was, I couldn't care less. I had made my decision, and there was no turning back now. By the time I got to the bank, Jake had called again, but I let it ring out. I wasn't picking up anymore. When I walked into the office, the bank manager, a no-nonsense woman named Karen, was already expecting me. I had made arrangements earlier in the day. The loan was in my name, because, let's face it, Jake had probably put the whole thing on his credit card or took out some shady loan he couldn't pay back. He wasn't exactly known for being responsible. Karen was ready to take action. We've already begun processing the repossession, she said, flipping through her papers. Once the payments aren't made, we follow the protocol. But we can always expedite the process. I nodded, my fingers tapping against the counter, barely able to contain the mix of excitement and satisfaction bubbling inside me. This was it. The car would be gone, and Jake would have to face the consequences. Later that afternoon, I got a call from Jake. His voice was different this time, quiet, broken. What did you do? He asked, his words trembling. I could barely hold back a smile. I did what I had to do, Jake. You never learn. I'm sorry. I'm really sorry. I didn't mean to mess things up. Please just stop them from taking it. Please, I'll figure this out. I will pay you back. I could hear the raw desperation in his voice now. And then, like the floodgates had opened, I heard the thing I didn't expect. His voice cracked. I can't lose it, please. I just wanted something. For once, I wanted something to go right. I'm sorry. I messed up. I need that car. The vulnerability in his voice hit me harder than I thought it would. But I couldn't back down now. I wouldn't. You never cared about the people who helped you, Jake, I said, trying to keep my voice steady. You never thought about the consequences. You just take and take and take. And now, here we are. I'm sorry, but there's no turning back. He was silent for a moment, and then I heard it. The sound of him crying, Please, please don't let them take it. I'm begging you. Jake sobbed into the phone. I can't lose it. Not like this. I closed my eyes, the weight of the situation settling over me. I had expected him to be angry, maybe even try to fight back. But I didn't expect to hear him breaking down like this. It was almost pathetic. I gave you chances, Jake. You had your time. You think I don't care? I do. But you never learned. You had everything handed to you, and you just threw it all away. Another sob escaped from him, and I heard him sniffle, trying to regain some composure, but it was no use. "I'm sorry," he whispered. "I'm sorry, please. I didn't know what to do. I didn't think you'd—" "Yeah, well, you should have thought about that before you made the decision to buy a car you couldn't afford, huh?" I cut him off, the coldness of my words washing over the situation. Jake's crying grew louder, and part of me almost felt like I was going too far. But the other part, the part that had been pushed too many times, felt a sense of relief. I had finally taken control. "I'm sorry. I'm sorry," he repeated. "Please, I don't want to lose it. I can't. I can't lose everything I have left." The finality of his words hit hard. He was finally realizing that he couldn't run from his mistakes, that he would have to face the music. I was done trying to save him. "I'm sorry, Jake. I really am. But this is your lesson. You're going to learn what happens when you make promises you can't keep." Just as I was about to end the call, I heard his voice one last time, barely audible through his tears. "Please, don't do this. Please." And I hung up. That I watched the hours tick by, feeling a sense of power and relief wash over me. But I knew this wasn't over. The moment I saw the tow truck pull up to his driveway, I knew Jake would come to me, once again, pleading for mercy. But it wasn't mercy he needed, it was accountability. And I wasn't going to let him get away with it this time. The next morning, I woke up to dozens of missed calls from Jake and a few messages from Dad, but I was beyond caring. I knew what was coming to be. Why the time I checked my phone again, I had a message from the bank. Jake's car was gone. Repossession complete. I felt a strange sense of calm wash over me, like a weight I didn't realize I was carrying had finally lifted. I didn't hear from Jake for a while after that, but I could guess what was happening. He was likely pacing around his empty driveway, staring at the spot where his car used to be, probably realizing he'd lost not only the car but his last chance at regaining any respect. Later that evening, I received a long voicemail from him. His voice was quiet, but I could hear the anger bubbling beneath the surface. You really did it. You took it. I don't even know what to say. You said you were going to help me, and now it's gone. Everything is gone. I hate you. You ruined me." I almost felt bad for him, but I knew this was the only way he would learn. For once, he needed to face the consequences of his actions. That night, Dad called me, angry, of course. "What the hell did you do to Jake's car? He says you had it repossessed. He's devastated." "I didn't do anything he didn't deserve," I said, my voice steady. "He never learns. Every time I help him, he messes up again. I gave him every chance. It's not my fault he can't take responsibility." There was a long pause on the other end of the line. Then Dad sighed. "I get it. I really do. But I don't think you realize just how bad this is for him." "Maybe he needs to realize that for himself," I replied. "Maybe he needs to hit rock bottom before he can climb back up." The next few weeks were awkward. Jake avoided me like the plague, and I could tell he was struggling. He finally came to me one day, looking defeated, his eyes red from crying. I get it now," he whispered, his voice small. "I should have listened to you. I'm sorry. I really am." And just like that, I saw the change in him. Maybe it took losing everything to get him to realize what I had been trying to teach him all along. I didn't give him any money this time, but I could see that he was learning. Slowly. Sometimes, revenge doesn't come in the form of getting back at someone. Sometimes, it's about making them realize their own mistakes and forcing them to take responsibility. And for once, I felt like I had done just that. What do you all think? Was I too harsh? Or did Jake finally get what he deserved? Let me know your thoughts in the comments.